Good evening and welcome to Greater Somerville. For October 18th, 2011, I'm Joe Lynch. My guest tonight is hot off of last night's Alderman at Large debate, which was held at the Somerville Theater. He is one of 7 candidates for 4 Alderman at Large seats on the Board of Aldermen. A native of Somerville and a graduate of Somerville High School, he is a longtime employee of the Middlesex County Sheriff's Office. He ran for Alderman at Large in 1985 and is now actively again seeking a seat on the Board of Aldermen. It is my pleasure to welcome for his first visit here on the Greater Somerville set, Alderman at Large candidate Michael Nionakis. Long time no see, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, we saw each other at the Somerville Theater last night.
What a great time that was last night.
You and 6 of your best friends were
Yes.
up on the stage.
And we debated, and we brought the real American politics back to Davis Square.
You
last
loved
night.
it. You were telling me that you were out traveling with your supporters out
Yes.
in the middle of Davis Square, and the challengers, Todd Easton and Sean Fitzgerald, all of those campaigns were out in full force last night.
It was the air of excitement in Davis Square was unbelievable last
It was
night.
fun. For
Yeah.
you people who sat at home, you're not going to get the full flavor of what it was in Davis Square last night. All 7 candidates, all 7 Alderman at Large candidates, came to the Somerville Theater last night, and 4 of our panelists, one from the Boston Globe, one from the Somerville Journal, one from the Somerville News, and one from Somerville Patch. They were the media panelists who asked all 7 questions all night long.
Yes.
And then they mixed it up a little bit at the end, and there was a lively debate amongst the 7 candidates. Michael Nionakis right in the middle of the lively debate. So it worked well, though.
It did. You know, the crowd that we had inside the theater, plus the questions, the answers, the debate. You know, the debate itself was, you know, I don't think I've seen that in Somerville.
Yeah, the last time, Michael, that they did something like that was actually during the mayoral campaign, and I think it was Dorothy Kelly Gay, Joe Curtatone, and Tony LaFuente. So it was the primary for when the 3 of them were running for mayor. To my best recollection, and somebody could correct me later, but to my best recollection, that was the last time we did a major debate like that at the Somerville Theater.
It was fun.
Yeah. Well, you know, Michael was telling me, and some of the other candidates came up to me afterwards, and they said, you know, that was fun.
It was.
You know?
I was a little apprehensive at first because you don't know what the questions are.
Right.
So off the cuff, you know, your mind's going 1,000 different directions, and bang, you're locked in.
And you know, in fairness to the challengers, you know, the 3 challengers, that's one of the first times that I think most of you have been under the hot lights, stage lights like that, singular, standing at a podium with cameras rolling, and 150 to 200 people out in the audience. So it's a good thing you did bring your supporters.
All eyes are on you.
That's right. You brought your supporters with you.
Yes, and actually back in 1985 when I ran, the venue was so big, there were 17 candidates that ran for Alderman at Large.
Yeah.
So they could not fit all 17 candidates on one stage. So they broke it down into groups of 3, and fortunately I was in the middle of our current Congressman, Michael Capuano, and Mr. McKenna, who they two went on to win the Alderman at Large seat. And I lost that debate, I guess, that night.
You know, Michael, no offense against the 4 incumbents that you're running against this year, but Mike Capuano is not a bad candidate to lose to.
Yes, so I was proud to lose to him.
There you go. There you go. But that was in 1985.
I was 21 years old.
Yep. So now you've made a decision. I won't say these many years later, but people out there can do the math. But now you've made a decision to run again.
Yes.
So tell us why.
I have a family now that I'm raising here. I have a 20-year-old daughter who's going to school in Boston in college, and I have a 4-year-old son. Somerville has always been my home and in my heart. I love the city, and right now it just doesn't seem like, you know, City Hall is connected with the residents of Somerville.
Tell us how. We know that there's kind of this thing out there. Michael, don't play with the plugs here in front of you.
Sorry.
We know that there's this general feeling in the city that there is old Somerville And then there are the folks who are coming in wanting to change Somerville.
Yes, well, change is going to happen.
Yeah.
The city has been changing throughout its whole history. What's happened is there's a disconnection of, we got the higher fees with the parking, fines, the $25.7 million that we borrowed for Assembly Square. People are struggling. Neighborhoods are struggling. People are unemployed. The poverty line in Somerville, it's growing. It's getting higher and higher every year, and people just can't figure out why we would want to borrow that money. And that is one of the sticking points of my campaign, would be fiscal responsibility.
So let me try to set it up just a little bit, because the folks in the theater last night had the benefit of some setup.
Yes.
Excuse me. What we've spoken about, not only with you as a candidate, but the mayor has been on this show, several of the aldermen have been on the show, and we've addressed the issue of fiscal responsibility.
Yes.
One of the things that you brought forward in the debate last night was, how can the city in their right mind float $25 million bond, which in effect is a loan,
Yes.
For a multi-billion-dollar corporation called Federal Realty, who are the developers for Assembly Square.
Assembly Square.
Right.
Plus, they have a $375 million revenue every year with a $400 million operating budget.
So your platform is really, why are we cutting that kind of a deal with a
someone like that.
multi-billion-dollar corporation?
See, Somerville, their precious commodity right now is their undeveloped land. That's a gold mine. We can, for the lack of a better word, I can't think of it. We can get the maximum dollar value out of every piece of undeveloped land. Actually, we can make these developers pay through the nose.
So don't sell ourselves short.
Don't sell ourselves short. Let us get top dollar and let us not pay for any of the infrastructure. I know that was probably part of a deal that was signed in 2006, but that this company is in it. They're not in it for their health. They're in it to make a buck.
Sure. Most private developers, that's what they're in for. They have responsibility towards the company owners, and they have responsibility towards shareholders if they have shareholders.
Yeah, they do. I think they're trading at $82 a share right now.
So your conjecture is that the city of Somerville has responsibility to its shareholders.
Yes. And
we should not be floating bonds. Now let's go a little further with your argument that if we had not floated the $25 million bond, and they had paid for their own infrastructure, in effect, all of that sewer system and roadway system and everything else becomes theirs.
All the power to them.
If they pay for it, it becomes theirs.
And their responsibility to maintain.
Yep. And they would have to do their own snow plowing. They would have to do their own security systems. They would have to do their own water and sewer.
Well, it is. What are they looking at? 3,000 units down there?
I think initially it looks like it's going to be about 2,000 units.
2,000. That's a small town.
2,000 units of people is a good sized town these days. But so your conjecture is really that you disagreed with the way that the mayor and the board of aldermen moved ahead with that $25 million bond.
And it seemed like the day that they passed that up at City Hall, there was hardly any debate. The only one, I think Bob Train was absent for that vote, and Rebecca Gurwitz, the alderman from Ward 6, she seemed like the only one that was questioning it. And the rest of them, the other 9, just, okay.
I do remember, and as gray as the hair is, my brain cells remember when Rebecca Gurwitz was here on this show, and I questioned her about the $25 million. And here's a question that I asked her, that she was the lone dissenting voice.
Yes.
She voted no to not float that $25 million bond because she still had questions that were unanswered about the validity of doing what the city was doing. And I asked her this question: were all the other aldermen wrong on their vote, and was she the only right vote?
In my opinion, yes. She was the only right vote at the time, and actually, to this day, she is the only right vote. That the $4 billion that this company has in assets, when they're nickel and diming us, that's not right.
Let's move on to another couple of issues that were brought up at the debate last night, and I know that some of the other alderman candidates may think it's unfair that you're getting a second shot at the camera here, Michael, but In all honesty, Michael Nionakis was scheduled to be on the show in September.
Correct.
All of the candidates most of the candidates had responded to my request for booking dates back in May. So Michael had already responded for a date in September, and as some of the viewers know, my mom passed away in September, and we had to move Michael to tonight.
So I did not want tonight. It was thrown upon me.
But you took it.
Fortunately,
But
it was
you
thrown.
took it.
I took it.
But there were a couple of debate questions that started a very lively debate amongst some of your opponents. Why don't you?
The Somerville Community School. Yesterday, when I spoke and said that it should have been done in 6 months, I did not know last night when I spoke at the debate that the insurance money took 14 months to get here. So for that, other candidates, the ones who got offended at me last night, I apologize. Thank you.
Yep. Well, there are intricacies of every single deal that goes on up at City Hall, Michael, that the residents like me, I wouldn't know.
Yes, if it was explained to the citizens of Somerville a little better by the alderman or the alderman at large, then there possibly might not have been a debate last night.
Well, no, I mean, that's the nature of challenging an incumbent,
Yes.
is that the challengers think they can do a better job in certain aspects than the incumbents
Yes,
are.
it's a different perspective, a new
Right.
view.
Right.
Look outside the box. Look for funding. Look for anything we can to save money for the taxpayer of Somerville.
So would it be fair to say that your platform in your challenge to for one of the four seats up there is more fiscal responsibility for
Yes.
the city?
Yes, they have to stop with the fees and the fines. They it's double dipping into the taxpayer pocket. They're getting taxes, and then they're getting the fines and fees from parking, water and sewer, what have you. And there's only so much a person can take.
Michael, I think, we didn't know each other before you announced your candidacy, but I think you've known, in the conversations that we've had, that I try to be fair. So let me pose the flip side of that to you. And this is something that I'm very in tune with, being in business for many years. When your revenues begin to decrease, whatever the source of those revenues are, whether it's state aid or it's taxes, your tax revenue is not coming into the city the way it should because homes are in foreclosure,
Yes.
or people have not the means to pay the taxes. The mayor and the board are faced with some decisions, which is how do we backfill that shortfall?
Exactly.
And, I've skewered I shouldn't say skewered, sorry, Mayor. I've asked the mayor before, both in public and in private and on this show, why is it always the taxpayer that gets to pay the tab for somebody else not being able to pay their tab? So it is a dilemma for all municipalities.
Yes.
State aid is being cut. People are demanding city services. How do we pay for those city services? So that's really the argument that the mayor is using and some of the board members are using, is that we need money from somewhere.
Yes.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the fees and fines and where they're unfair?
Actually, with the parking and traffic, the fines, they doubled over the last year, and
Some have even tripled.
Yes, and then we have the increased payment for the residential stickers. They went citywide, and you figure they're going citywide, they're going to make more revenue. They should stay the same, but no, they doubled, and I think they're going up again next year to $30.
I did see something that there was the possibility of increase in fees.
Well, if they want to do that, the $30 increase, well, turn around and say, with this parking sticker, you get a free half hour at a meter when you park there.
Do you think part of the logic there is to try to get rid of cars off the street?
Well, if you look at all the bike paths we have, the narrowing of the streets, Lower Broadway, I heard, they're moving all the sewer and water lines right now. They're eliminating 2 lanes each way, and they're making it 1 lane with the bike lane and parking and widening the sidewalks. So I think what the planning board or whoever's trying to design the city is trying to eliminate vehicle traffic and say, all right, why don't you hop on the green line, which I am totally for the green line. And the day it comes, it's probably going to be one of the happiest days that the city has ever.
But I think
had.
you're raising a good point, Michael, and some other people that I talk to in the city are raising a very good point.
Yeah.
We're starting to do a lot of this changing of our infrastructure and trying to get people's habits to change.
Yes.
Less dependency on motor vehicles. It cleans the air better.
Yes.
The narrowing of our larger boulevards and streets makes it safer for pedestrians to cross. But at the same, and then bicycles are healthy.
There you go.
Bicycles are healthy. But at the same time, that's predicated on the fact that the Green Line is
Green
coming.
Line is coming.
Right.
Well.
So here's the risk, and you're not the only one to raise the issue.
Mm-hmm.
The risk is that we move ahead with all these other things.
Yes.
Narrow the roadways, create the bike lanes, put more restrictions in to gently try to ease more vehicles out of the city. And then what happens if the Green Line does not
See,
come?
this is putting the horse before the cart. We should wait. The mayor has a great idea. He is 100% right in trying to sue the state in getting the Green Line extension. It's going to be great. Right through here, we're going to have the Green Line. But instead of thinking so far ahead into the future, we're hurting the people of today. You know, just when the Green Line comes, then we can start. Another thing that I've been questioned on a lot is affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen when the Green Line comes? Rents, property value are going to skyrocket.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're weak now, but when that Green Line comes, this place is going to be like you've never. It's going to be another Davis Square, but throughout the whole length of the city.
What do you propose?
Well, right now they have 12.5% on affordable housing for every new. I don't know. Is it over 5 units? Or
It's over a certain amount of
Over
units,
some.
and I don't like to say
Yeah.
it because I haven't refreshed my
Yeah.
mind, but over a certain amount of units that are built by any one developer, they're required to have 12.5% of those units be offered to low-income folks through the affordable housing.
Yes, and my point is, why not enact now, say like 15%? You know, like we're dealing with a $4 billion corporation. They can absorb that 15% because we have to act now on this, because once the Green Line comes, it's too late. Everything's going to be built. You know,
The land is gone, the
land is gone.
developments
See you
are up.
later. Yep.
Right.
And then now we're going to try to stick them with the 15%. It's gone.
So if you're successful,
Yes.
you would stick to that commitment,
Yes,
and
I
you'd
would.
introduce something within
Any
the Board of
kind
Aldermen to
ordinance
hike it.
that would just make it. It has to be done, because this the community, it's going to make itself so much better. It's going to price itself out of its residents.
How do we protect our seniors who are in the homes that they've owned for years and years and years? And last night, one of your opponents did bring up the fact that he introduced the exemption, the 30% exemption
Mr.
for
White.
seniors,
Very good,
Alderman
yep.
Bill White. But is that enough going forward?
No, because you figure if anything happens, any little hardship happens to someone of older or an elderly person, that's going to set them back quite a bit.
They have to dip into their savings
Yes.
to repair the roof, or
And,
yeah.
and it could be anything. It could be a medical disaster. Could
Right.
be anything small like that could really tip the scale. Now you're looking at someone who's had their house for 60 years. They're selling it.
Any ideas how we protect them once the Green Line starts pushing them out?
None.
It's something that the voters have been thinking about. I know the older voters were not too happy, especially the retirees.
Yeah.
The city of Somerville retirees were not too happy with the mayor's GIC,
Yes.
including the city into the GIC, because in some instances that quadrupled what they had to pay
Yes,
for
and then now there's
health insurance.
There's $2.3 million that they have in this fund, or somewhere around that figure. The 2.3, when that's a one-time deal. Once that is gone, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to have an elderly person who worked for the city, did their time, 32 years of commitment to the city, they get the rug pulled out from under them. If they didn't work another job, God forbid, and they don't have enough quarters to get on Medicaid, which
Mm-hmm.
will cover the extra expenses, once that 2.3 million is gone, it's gone, and they're on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people, that they worked in the city, they gave themselves to the city, this could be a possible, they're going to lose their house and have to move.
You work in the Middlesex County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
Are you part of the GIC?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I have been a part in the last 3 or 4 years. We've noticed the co-payments have gone up. The fees every month have gone up to carry them. And another thing they hit you with now is a $250 a year deductible. And they say, oh, it's only for certain testing. Every year you go for a physical, they take blood.
Mm-hmm.
There's a $250 deductible on blood work.
Mm-hmm.
And that could go up because they're unregulated. Nobody oversees them. They could just, okay, well, guess what? Here's a letter. Now it's going up to $500. Now for a CAT scan, it's a $500 deductible for that also. Emergency room visit with a CAT scan and blood work, you're looking at $1,100 out of your pocket.
Yeah,
When's the madness stop?
Yeah, I know. That was, it wasn't just a case of any one singular action, I think, taken by the city over the last few years that prompted some of you and 2 other opponents to say, enough.
Yeah.
We've got all of these new initiatives that are being enacted by the mayor and supported by the current crop of Board of Aldermen, but you're not taking into effect what all of these new things are doing to some of the most vulnerable.
Exactly.
The least wealthy in our community are going to get pushed out, and our seniors are going to get pushed out. The rest of us who are still in semi-peak earning capacity can maybe make it and take care of ourselves.
But eventually, we're going to be an issue.
Eventually, we move into another
Hopefully,
category.
yes.
That's absolutely correct.
That's my point on that.
Let's talk a little bit. We have some time here. If you were going to grade the city, what grade would you give it right now? Overall, basic services.
Basic service. I think this current administration has given us the best bang for our buck. The garbage gets picked up every week. The streets get swept during the winter. God knows Somerville must have the cleanest streets in the state. But I'd give it a B plus to an A.
Yep.
With the city services.
Okay. How about the current Board of Aldermen? And I'm talking about not just the Aldermen at large, but the Ward Aldermen plus the Aldermen at large. We have 11 members representing the voters.
Yes. I'd give them a C plus. A C plus to a B. But there is no debate there anymore, Joe. I remember when I was a kid growing up watching Channel 3, there'd be aldermen yelling at this alderman, standing up, fighting for what he thought was right. There is no debate. You turn around, it's, okay, here's this. Who wants to vote? All opposed, say aye. All opposed, say no. All for, say aye.
So I'm going to paraphrase what was being said at the debate last night, and forgive me if I say it wrong, but there was a charge leveled by one of the challengers, not you, I don't think, but saying that the Board of Aldermen had become reactive instead of proactive, is that they just react to what the mayor says he wants.
Yes, and that's what it is. And then another point that was brought to me last night after the debate about being a proactive and reactive, the current Board of Aldermen saying, we are proactive, you can't say, and then the other guy saying, no, you are reactive. They're proactive right now for stuff that hasn't happened yet. So far in the future, the green line, the bike lanes, the traffic flow, that's being proactive, but too far ahead proactive. They're looking through the forest and you can't see the trees.
Kiddingly, I said, that last week I had a special edition of the show, which watch for it on Channel 3. It's a special one-on-one with the mayor. And I had asked him, every time he introduced a new catchword, that would come. He would talk about, and at Assembly Square, and I said, Joe, is that done yet? And then he would talk about IKEA, and I would say, is that done yet?
Is that here yet?
Yeah. And the Green Line, is that done yet?
We're trying.
We have multiple initiatives that are being done. They're either in the planning stage or they're in the implementation stage.
Yeah.
But do you feel when you're talking to the voters out there that they're just getting tired, that nothing is getting done?
Nothing is getting done. That is.
And we keep getting more fees and fines.
More fees and fines for something that's not here yet, and it's a lot of people are disheartened.
What else are the voters saying? You've been out there campaigning for 5 months?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, I was down in East Somerville Friday, and I went to one of the constituents' house. I knocked on his door, and he says, I hear a lot of plane noise now. I said, excuse me? He says, ever since they put that new runway in, planes keep flying by my house depending on which way the wind. can we get free windows like they do in East Boston? And Winthrop, I was like, I'll have to look into that.
There was another issue that was brought up during one of the other Alderman at Large candidates, and let me try to get the old gray matter, and I think it was Alderman Bill White, who 3 years ago instituted something with the city to sue Massport.
Yes.
Because of the way that the planes were flying over Somerville. Mm-hmm. And there was a settlement that was announced on that, and it had to do with, during most times when the wind is not in certain directions, they will fly out of the airport and over the Mystic River, climbing all the way so that they're not flying over the hills and my house in Ward 5, yes. Right? We grew up with it, though.
Yes, Magoon Square.
Yeah, we grew up with it on Sunday mornings. The international flights going out would pass right over Magoon Square.
Actually, a couple of times I attended the Bingham School. Yep. And on like a nice warm spring day, the windows would be open, and all of a sudden the planes would start flying.
And the windows rattled.
Yep, and the teacher would go, "Oh, looks like we're going to suffocate again today," and shut all the windows.
Yeah. No, I do distinctly remember those planes coming overhead. But the gentleman is right.
Yeah.
They've switched something over at Logan Airport, and more and more I'm hearing those planes coming over the middle part of the city. So
I never even I heard the plane noise, but it didn't.
Well, write that down. Yes. Write that down, Michael. That's another thing on your to-do list.
To-do list.
Yep. You've got a November 8th election day.
Yes.
Yeah. Your supporters were out in full force last night. Anything that you want to address that I haven't brought up? You and I had talked about some general areas.
Yeah, generally we talked about the Green Line, the bike paths, the $25.7 million bond, taxes, fees for the parking. Small business, we have to expand our business base. That is going to alleviate the taxes. If we start doing that, like Walmart coming into Circuit City, I'm all for that. It's going to create jobs, possibly for some of our
It's a supermarket.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to increase our business tax base, and then it's going to create competition with the consumers, and it's like a win-win situation.
So you'd be in favor of allowing Walmart to come into the old Circuit City with a supermarket?
With the supermarket. It's going to be just groceries and produce, I believe they said it was going to be.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. That should bang. Go. Let's go. Yeah. Let's get businesses in Somerville.
Another part of the city, excuse me, Michael, another part of the city that's facing the same dilemma is up on Winter Hill. What do we do with the Old Star Market?
The Old Star Market. But there has to be negotiations made there. Somebody has to sit down. We have to mediate. We have to take the initiative to just sit this guy down and say, listen, we have to do something. It's an eyesore. It's a public hazard. Let's sit down. Let's work it out. Let's make something happen.
Yeah.
Put something in there where, again, you can have jobs. Last night, one of the candidates or the incumbents turned around and called it menial jobs by getting a job, Ocean State job lot. Menial job, in this economy right now, there's no such thing as a menial job. You have work, you take pride, you get a paycheck. Now you get the paycheck, you spend it in your community. It increases, and it just cascades.
Yeah, I think that might have been a poor choice in words, because in this economy, I don't think anybody thinks their job is menial.
It's precious.
We all want better paying jobs.
Yes.
But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Michael, I'm going to ask you to look at the camera and tell the folks at home what the website is, how to contact you, and you do the rest.
Yes.
Hi. We've got about 30 seconds left.
Well, good evening. My name is Michael Nionakis. I am a candidate for Alderman at Large. My website is Nionakis.com. I have, like I said, I was born in the city. I was raised in the city. I love the city. And I'm asking you just for one favor. If you can look in your hearts and realize that I'm really a good candidate, and give me one of your 4 votes on November 8th. And I have to end the show with one political promise. Honey, I promise after the election, you will get your dining room back.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go, Michael. Hey, address it to the family. I think that's going to be about it for tonight, folks. My many thanks to Alderman at Large candidate Michael Nionakis. Please don't forget to vote on November 8th, 2011. It is Election Day here in the city of Somerville. For Greater Somerville, I'm Joe Lynch. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Good night.